It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, Nigel Farage tells Sky News that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was right to speak out about the immigration crisis. The Manchester United co-owner apologising after using the word colonised to describe immigrants' impact on Britain. The Prime Minister said that was offensive and wrong, but the Reform leader said the word was correct, but perhaps people aren't quite ready to hear it. Also tonight, a nursery worker who sexually abused the children in his care is jailed for 18 years. Vincent Chan preyed on children as young as 2 at the Bright Horizons nursery in West Hampstead. Sentencing him today, the judge told him he had breached the trust placed in him in the most despicable of ways. Plus, we'll have an update on Jessie Nelson's fight to add spinal muscular atrophy to the NHS newborn screening programme, as her petition to bring about change gathers more signatures to demand a government response in less than a day. And the surprise new revenue stream for criminals in Scotland will be discussing the rise of cooking oil theft from chip shops and takeaways north of the border. All that's come and much more on the UK Tonight. Today, Sir Jim Ratcliffe apologised and Manchester United was forced into a statement insisting it is an inclusive and welcoming football club. But Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has told Sky News the Ineos founder and Manchester United co-owner was right to speak out about immigration when he told Ed Conway yesterday that Britain has been colonised by immigrants. The comments sparked a backlash. The Prime Minister called them offensive. Football's anti-racism bodies called them deeply divisive. But for Mr Farage, if the word colonise wasn't right, the sentiment certainly was. Our chief political correspondent John Craig reports.
It became very unpopular for a while.
Billionaire tycoon and Manchester United chief Sir Jim Ratcliffe was in Antwerp to talk about the seemingly uncontentious subject of the chemical industry. But it was his incendiary comments on immigration in a Sky News interview that sparked an explosive reaction from politicians, including Sir Keir Starmer.
You can't have an economy with 9 million people on benefits and huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK is being colonised. It's costing too much money. It will cause...
It's been colonised?
It'll cause... Well, yeah. The UK is being colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it?
To senior Labour figures, Sir Jim's comments sounded like the language of Reform UK. And Reform UK's leader, Nigel Farage, who Sir Jim said he'd met recently, told Sky News he rejects the criticism, though the word colonisation was not ideal.
Was Jim Ratcliffe right to apologise for his comments?
No, he apologised for the use of one word.
Colonisation.
Yeah, he didn't apologise for his comments. So what did he say? He said 12 million people have come to the country in the last few years. Fact. Now, the use of the word colonisation, that's what he's withdrawn.
Do you think that's offensive?
I think it's probably, in the dictionary definition, correct, but perhaps people aren't quite ready for it.
I mean, it has historical overtones, doesn't it?
It does.
In his apology, Sir Jim, who founded the Ineos Chemicals Group, said, "I'm sorry that my choice of language has offended some people in the UK and Europe and caused concern. But it's important to raise the issue of controlled and well-managed immigration that supports economic growth. The Manchester United co-owner is one of Britain's richest men, with a net worth of £17 billion. In 2020, he moved his primary residence to the tax haven of Monaco. Sir Keir Starmer's spokesman said it was right that Sir Jim had apologised for his offensive and wrong comments. Other cabinet ministers joined in the backlash.
What Jim Ratcliffe said was unacceptable. It was disgusting, frankly.
The Prime Minister's right. A lot of people would have found that language offensive, wrong.
The Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, said Sir Jim's comments were inaccurate, insulting and inflammatory. There was also condemnation from the world of football. The Football Association said it was looking into the comments. Sir Jim's own club, Manchester United, said it prides itself on being inclusive and welcoming, with a diverse group of players and staff and a global community of supporters. And on the streets of Manchester...
I'm an immigrant myself. I've been here for over 20 years and I think
Everyone has a part in the community.
I think he should live in the UK and pay his taxes. End of. Otherwise, he should have his knighthood stripped off him.
Manchester is built on immigrants, right? From the Irish to, we've had everyone. It seems a really weird thing to say.
Sir Jim remains defiant, but critics claim his outburst was an own goal. John Craig, Sky News.
This is the ultimate story, isn't it, that mixes politics with sport. Our sports correspondent Rob Harris is here with us. And Manchester United put out a statement today. They took a while to put a statement out because, let's face it, they're in a tricky position here, aren't they? Jim Ratcliffe being a part owner of the club. What did their statement say? Because it didn't actually directly address what their part owner had said.
Yeah, it didn't mention Jim Ratcliffe. So if you suddenly saw the statement pop up on their website, you might think it was just a general sort of promotion of tolerance and diversity. But the timing definitely links it to what Sir Jim said. And, they put the statement out saying they pride themselves on being an inclusive and welcoming club and how they remain deeply committed to equality, diversity and inclusion. Obviously needing to reinforce that commitment because Sir Jim Ratcliffe's comments could collide with some of the ideals promoted not just by United but Manchester as a whole. And the club statement references that, saying that, the city is about being somewhere where anyone can call home, and the team itself, the men's team with more than a dozen nationalities, how many staff with mixed heritage as well. And you can imagine that the comments would not have gone down well at all. I'm thinking back to when Gary Neville a couple of years ago, 6 years ago now, complained about Boris Johnson when he was Tory leader and his comments sort of inflaming racism when he talked about curbing immigration numbers. And obviously it's not per se just about him talking about bringing immigration numbers down, but as Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham said, portraying immigrants as a sort of invading force with that use of colonising. Yeah,
as Nigel Farage said, many people may support the sentiment behind Jim Ratcliffe's comments. Some may well support the language, but the majority of people don't. Manchester, one of the most diverse cities in the UK. The FA have also got involved today. Why might they be looking into what Sir Jim Ratcliffe said?
Well, the FA, it's understood, are looking into whether or not Sir Jim has breached any of their rules, particularly on potentially bringing the game into disrepute. And there's a part of that regulation which is about using aggravated language that causes a racial offence in particular. And while the interview was largely about economic policy and immigration, he did bring it back to Manchester United, to our economics and data editor, Ed Conway, when he said that perhaps the government needs to act like he has at Manchester United, taking on popular decisions to bring about change to address the immigration issue. So he did use his footballing platform to promote his political agenda, and notably his apology statement today, which some take as a partial apology.
Some take it as a non-apology.
And just 20 words were spent apologising for any offence caused. Another 90 were spent reinforcing his determination to see the government address migration numbers. OK,
well, as our data and economics editor Ed Conway said, it wasn't the interview he was expecting. It certainly wasn't the outcome of an interview that Sir Jim Ratcliffe it was expecting, but we are where we are. Sports correspondent Rob Harris, thank you. Much more on this to come. And let's bring in now chair and co-founder of the Manchester United Muslim Supporters Club, Asif Mahmood. Asif, really good of you to join us tonight. I just wonder what you thought when you heard those comments made by the co-owner of your club, Sir Jim Ratcliffe.
Well, personally, I was upset. I was in a bit of state of disbelief and shock that someone of Jim's position at the club that I love would say such a thing.
What would you say to him if you had the chance? Because he has apologised today, although, as I was just saying to Rob Harris there, it's been called a partial apology, a non-apology. He apologises if you were offended by what he said, but he didn't actually apologise for what he said.
If there's meant to be a debate around immigration and these issues that people are facing, then at least be honest. Some of the statistics that were quoted by Sir Jim were incorrect. His comments about migrants, essentially taking out of the country and not contributing, were incorrect. Using the word colonising again was such a horrible word to use. So I think if I could speak to him directly, I think I'd want to try and understand why he felt the need to make those comments and why he hasn't retracted some of them, because they weren't right and they weren't correct.
Yeah. He wasn't speaking in a sporting capacity. He was speaking as the owner of INEOS about petrochemicals, but obviously got involved in a political discussion. However, he is a part owner of Manchester United, one of the biggest football clubs in the world, a global fan base and a home fan base that is diverse. Manchester, one of the most diverse cities, proudly so, in the UK. How do you think this will have affected the club's relationship with the city? The club itself put out a statement today, you know, reinforcing their support for diversity and inclusion. Of course, they're in a tricky spot, but do you think any damage has been done here?
I think it's very difficult for the club to distance themselves from Sir Jim because he is a part owner of the club. We did see their statement and we welcome the statement. We did feel maybe their hands were tied. They couldn't condemn or even reference what was said by Sir Jim. I don't think the relationship with Manchester United in itself has been damaged within the city because Manchester United does not represent Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and his comments do not align with what we feel Manchester United is all about. You know, the staff, the coaching staff, the players, the fans, they do not represent him and he does not represent them. Yeah,
inclusion and feeling fully supported, that's on offer at the club, right? The club welcomes all.
Yeah, I'm 100%. We don't feel in any way that since we've been working with the club, we've ever felt not included and that they haven't supported us. So what he said is definitely at odds with how United operate and how they've dealt with us.
Has anyone from the club directly reached out to you and your organisation?
So we contacted them yesterday, pretty much after his statement came out, asking for comment, and they replied to us just shortly before their statement came out today. You know, maybe it would have been nice to speak to them a bit sooner or had a phone call, because clearly we were quite upset. Our members were very upset. And, you know, this isn't a Muslim issue. It's an issue for anyone who is potentially seen as different and how they might be affected by his comments. So it would have been nice to speak to the club, but I'm sure they were probably trying to figure out the best way to how do you address the comments made by, you know, your own owner. It's not an easy position for them to be in. So we do understand from that perspective as well.
Yeah. Inflammatory language, divisive, it's been called. What do you think the risk is of using such language, particularly when you're associated with a club like Manchester United, as we said, that prides itself on diversity and inclusion? Do you fear reprisals when this kind of language is used? As someone, you know, who is a Muslim, talk to me about the ripple effect of somebody using that kind of term.
I think that's what got to me the most. You know, I have two young daughters. One of them wears hijab. My wife wears hijab. Not that, you know, wearing the hijab is the most important criteria, but for us, it makes them more visible as Muslims. And Muslim women are probably the most targeted out of most ethnic minorities, or the groups within that minority. And it makes me think about, you know, when I take them to games, will people look at them differently? Will comments like what Sir Jim has said give power and strength to those that feel that we don't belong here? You know, and I think that is a very important question that we've been having for quite some time amongst my friends and families. We have it often, you know, do we belong in this country? And, you know, up until, you know, now, you know, United wasn't an issue because we felt, at least when we went to watch United play, you kind of forget about everything and you just, you know, want to cheer your team on. But I do feel people with positions of power and authority, when they make these comments, they don't realize that they can directly impact and manifest into violence against minorities. And that's actually been shown in academic studies. So they are very dangerous comments to make.
OK. Well, listen, Asif Mahmood, I really appreciate you coming on tonight to talk about this. As you said, it's been upsetting for you and your family and other Muslim supporters of Manchester United. That's Asif Mahmood, their chair and co-founder of Manchester United Muslim Supporters. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
No problem.
A paedophile nursery worker has been sentenced today to 18 years in prison after filming himself sexually abusing children in his care. 45-year-old Vincent Chan pleaded guilty to 56 sexual offences, including more than 30 against children, making him one of the UK's worst-known sex offenders. Now his victims' families want better safeguards in nursery settings. Sky correspondent Tom Parmenter has this report.
His face is right there, on the front of the folder that tells the story of their daughter's time at nursery.
He wrote a large chunk of what's inside this, and we wanted to share it because it demonstrates how much is tainted by what he's done, how we remember her time at nursery. He was responsible for every element of her care when she was there, settling her to sleep during nap time, her intimate care, going to the toilet, comforting her when she was upset. As a parent, knowing those moments of vulnerability were looked over by a predator, I feel the innocence of her childhood is stolen.
Chan had over 1 million images on his devices, many showing him abusing young children in a primary school and then the Bright Horizons nursery on Finchley Road in North London. Among them, this couple's daughter.
On his devices, they found a whole load of images of our daughter, which were described to us as being very disturbing in nature. As a result, they considered her to be extremely high risk of also having been sexually abused.
He'd worked at the nursery for 7 years. Before that, he was secretly filming young students and adult colleagues at a primary school.
I, Vincent Chan, 2810 AT, hereby confirm that I'm guilty of all the things complained of in the disclosure document.
How do you feel about the videos I've told you so far?
No comment.
Do you recall those videos?
No comment.
He was sentenced to 18 years.
Every right-thinking person hearing about your offences would feel revulsion and disbelief. Your conduct was utterly wicked, perverse and depraved. You became a sexual predator and someone who had clearly lost all sense of moral compass.
1,200 families in North London have been told their children might have been exposed to this serial offender.
Whilst we've been able to speak to a number of families and provide them with clarity of what happened, tragic and absolutely disgusting behaviour by Chan, I still walk away with the unknown and being unable to actually speak to all families and provide them the clarity that their child was not subject to harm during Vincent Chan's care. All of those families that have had children go through that nursery setting or go through the primary school will be asking themselves the question, was my child a victim?
Do you have any feelings towards what he has done?
Obviously, we're totally sickened by his actions, and it's a real sense of despair that she was exposed to that. For us making a decision that millions of parents make every day to leave their children in the care of these professional organisations who have on the surface checks and balances and regulations to comply with. But this individual was so easily able to manipulate that system.
I feel absolutely let down by the hiring process and the fact that an existing offender was hired with rooms full of pre-verbal children who are literally sitting ducks behind closed doors with a sexual predator. I consider Bright Horizons responsible alongside Vincent Chan.
What would you like to see happen?
I would like to see a prosecution brought by the local authority.
Bright Horizons said their thoughts are with the families involved. Keeping children safe is our most important responsibility, they said. Vincent Chan broke that trust. His actions were depraved and devious and go against the kindness and care our dedicated professionals provide to children each day. The nursery chain said it's improved safeguarding, whistleblowing procedures and staff training. Parents say this must lead to systemic change in nurseries across the country.
Tom is with me in the studio now. And Tom, it's hard to find the words to sum this up. Sickening, harrowing, all of the above. You've been listening to all of the detail today. And those families having to sit through it, you know, they've been going through this for some time now. Today, just part of the end, because they've got more to go. You were just talking there about what they're fighting for. What is their focus now?
Well, they don't see this as the end, the sentencing of this man. And it is, as you say, an awful case. And there'll be families up and down the country just struggling to put themselves in that position of not knowing if their daughter or son was abused, because so many families have been told that their children have been exposed to this man. The charges all related to incidents that he had filmed himself, so there was evidence. And some of it, we must remember, was recorded on iPads issued by the nursery in the nursery setting during nap time for these preschool children. It is depraved and wicked, and there are so many words that don't all do justice to just what those families have been put through and, of course, their children. And it will horrify, no doubt, everyone who works in childcare across the country who do put the welfare and safety and well-being of children.
You speak to nursery workers and they say you should never be left alone with a child. There must always be 2 members of staff present. There should be CCTV. It seems like so many of these basic, checks were not in place.
No, major questions about the vetting process, whistleblowing that was able to happen, the alerts. We know that families were complaining about this man, not necessarily for the suspicion of sexual offending, but other concerns of inappropriate behaviour. What was really going on in that nursery? That is the subject of a safeguarding review that is ongoing. But Bright Horizons, this is one of the biggest nursery chains in the country, 300 sites. This particular one has now closed, but they face very strong accusations from these families who say that they're not going to just let this rest now this man is in prison, that actually they want to go after this nursery because of the failures that allowed this man to continue offending.
Because they say they've improved, but they want systemic change. And in a nursery setting, I mean, as a parent, you go to look around a nursery and, you look at everything, you think you're asking the right questions. Is there a standard nationally for nursery care settings? Or was this change seemingly an outlier?
I mean, there are checks, balances and standards they have to meet. They're inspected, they're inspected by Ofsted. And really this is something where there is a level that they all operate at, but these parents say this has to be increased because clearly one case is too many. There was another one in Bristol earlier at the start of this week, and there have been others that we have seen. And these parents see this case as the tipping point where things now have to change and there is political will and momentum to come on board with that and look at which measures together will work to improve, because you just want to know when you drop off a child at any childcare setting that when they go through the door that they're going to be safe.
OK, Tom, thank you so much, Tom, there covering that really upsetting story. Vincent Chan, the paedophile nursery worker today, jailed for 18 years. Thank you, Tom. Still to come here on the programme, is a social media ban really the answer to keeping school children safe online? We'll bring you our political editor, Beth Rigby's special report. And I'll be speaking to the Scotland chip shop that is being targeted by criminals for its used cooking oil.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'll take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is. First off, just the scale of what we're looking at. Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
Now, just last night, I had a conversation with Deputy Head Teacher Wesley Lisby about the fall in bullying and truancy at his school after they introduced magnetic pouches that prevent pupils from using their phones during the school day. As all parents know, keeping children safe in the digital world requires vigilance. However, it is impossible to be with them every hour of the day. Now, with the government grappling with calls for a social media ban for under-16s, our political editor Beth Rigby has been taking an in-depth look at this issue.
Teenagers, smartphones and social media. How we keep our kids safe online has become the question of our time, and one that politicians are now trying to answer.
Hi.
Liz Kendall coming to a school in London that's banned phones to find out what the students think. I don't know if you know Liz, but Liz is the Secretary of State that is going to look after all this, a politician that makes all the decisions around this. So I was not going to say very much, and I was going to leave it to you, Liz, to talk to the teenagers. Well, why don't you start off?
We're thinking at the minute about whether we should ban social media for under-16s. What do you think about all of that, honestly?
Social media is definitely not saving time. Social media is definitely a waste of time. So if we were to find some sort of restriction for it, then it would be very helpful.
You're just constantly scrolling and you have a lot of dopamine by just scrolling all the time. Your brain gets used to that, and then you can only pay attention like, you know, these 6-second intervals.
Do you feel you are still able to see inappropriate things? Because there is legislation that's supposed to stop illegal content for adults, for everybody, and harmful content for children. But there's also the view that this stuff is still getting through.
I've seen a bunch of transphobic and homophobic things online.
OK.
Well, I've seen some racist comments or racist videos featuring cyberbullying.
Would anyone not like a ban?
I think to ban it, it would take away, like, a big part of, like, young people's lives, because it's a big way which people do communicate.
And while this group of 12 to 15-year-olds had different views on social media, where they were in agreement was that a ban wouldn't work. Can I ask as well, you all understand technology much more than your parents. Could you find a way around a ban?
You can use VPNs to say that you're in a different country.
My cousin, she lives in Australia. They've got the ban, and already, like, all of her friends, they've already found a way around it.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Really appreciate it.
Ever since Australia banned under-16s from using social media last December, the government have been under pressure to act. Ministers have now launched a 3-month consultation looking at how we might better protect kids online. They are looking at a ban for under-16s on social media, putting age limits on inappropriate content and restricting addictive features that lead to doom scrolling. Kendall has her work cut out. You're looking at this now. There's a consultation about how do we better protect young people online. You've got MPs with a tidal wave of letters from concerned parents insisting that they impose...
I've had hundreds and hundreds myself from parents saying they want a ban.
They want a ban. You've got 61 MPs calling for a ban. There's been an amendment in the Lords to the schools bill calling for a ban. 2 out of 3 adults in recent polling support a ban. Why don't you put in place a ban?
There's also organisations like the NSPCC, the Molly Rose Foundation, the Internet Watch Foundation, who warn about the risks of a ban, that if you have a ban, it will all just push it underground, that young people will find a way around it. So we want to look at all of the options.
But this is part of the issue, isn't it? You've got the Online Safety Act. It's promised to protect children. It's not working, is it?
Well, there are a lot more age verification steps taking place. Can and should we go further? Yes, that's one of the issues we want to consult on.
Have the tech bros been let off the hook here? Are you struggling to implement regulation because what we're fearful of a backlash from Trump and the US?
not fearful of anybody.
There is a bit of a backlash, though, against some of the big media companies when governments are looking to restrict them. If I take Spain, where the Prime Minister Sanchez there has talked about banning social media for under 16s, Elon Musk wrote on X, "Dirty Sanchez is a tyrant and a traitor of the people of Spain." I mean, these people are bullying politicians, aren't they?
They are
bullying,
we don't
though, aren't they?
allow ourselves to be bullied. I don't feel bullied or threatened by anybody. I know what my job is, and it is to stand up for women and children.
For years, campaigners have been pressing politicians to do more. The Molly Rose Foundation is one such charity, set up in memory of Molly, who took her own life aged just 14 after viewing suicide and self-harm content online. But its boss, Andy Burrows, doesn't think a blanket ban is the answer.
The reality is that a ban does not necessarily stop them using these services, but it would make it harder for children to disclose. You force the problem underground, you force it to sites that are outside the scope of a ban, including gaming platforms.
The government have now launched this consultation. They say they want to do it quickly. You've talked about successive governments letting down both young people and their parents. Do you think it's going to be different this time?
I think we have reached a watershed moment. I think it is clear that the patience of parents has snapped. This government has been far too slow to act in its first, 18 months in office. Ian, Molly's father, and I met the Prime Minister a year ago. He promised at that point to take further action, and then we heard nothing.
Now pressure is coming not just from parents, but from MPs in the Labour Party too, who are demanding the PM takes meaningful action to keep kids safe and deliver real change for millions of families across the country. Beth Rigby, Sky News.
A petition launched by the singer Jessie Nelson to include spinal muscular atrophy in the NHS newborn screening programme has gathered enough signatures to force a government response in less than 24 hours. Jessie's twin daughters were diagnosed with SMA at 6 months old. If their condition had been detected at birth, their outlook could have been very different. The petition was launched this morning and already has more than 40,000 signatures. If it gets to 100,000, it will be debated in Parliament. Well, I spoke to Jessie just last month about her fight to bring about change.
I will not stop on my socials talking about it, you know, trying to do as many TVs as... Because, you know, yes, it's big, but there'll still be lots of other people that don't know about this. So
you've got to stay noisy.
Yeah, I've got to stay noisy. And that's the part that just is also really draining as well, because I also still think people forget that, like, I'm still a new mum who's just, like, been given this diagnosis with her daughters, and I'm still grieving and I'm still going through this as well.
Still to come on the UK Tonight. We'll find out why criminals are stealing used cooking oil from Scotland's chip shops. Assisted dying is an issue that is splitting families and politicians alike. Towards the end of last year, our North of England correspondent Greg Milam sat down with 82-year-old Ed Rumley. She set out the case for why she should be allowed to die on her own terms. But 6 weeks after that interview, she died. Her son says it was exactly the sort of death his mother wanted to avoid. Greg returned to speak to him and sent this report.
It was 3 months ago that Ed sat in her favourite armchair and talked about her impending death, to call for what she wouldn't have, the right to have an assisted death.
I feel that I don't want other people to restrict my choice, and I'm perfectly capable of deciding for me.
49 days later, Ed died. Her son Stephen was with her. It was a harrowing and difficult journey, and sitting in that same armchair, he says it was exactly what she dreaded.
She wouldn't have chose that end, and she very much researched it, very intelligent woman, and she knew exactly what was going to happen to her. Mum lived her life with dignity. The control was taken away from her. The dignity was removed. It actually took away her humanity and took away her options. She didn't have any other choices open to her.
Ed had hoped the assisted dying bill would mean others did have those choices, but its future is now uncertain. Supporters say opponents in the House of Lords are trying to kill it. Those opponents say it needs scrutiny to protect vulnerable people. Stephen lives in New Zealand, which does have an assisted dying law. At the time of his mum's death, an elderly friend back home took that choice. Ed had wanted to die in her own living room, in that favourite armchair, with a cup of tea by her side.
I feel disappointed for her that as a person who had fought for justice all her life, I felt the system let her down a little bit at the end. I don't think she had the justice that she deserved. Mum was so frustrated with the system. I don't think Mum was a person who was angry much. She would see things for how they were and try and change them, you know? How can I make this better, if not for me, but for other people? And that's how Mum lived her life.
Greg Milam, Sky News.
And if you've been affected by that story, you can contact the Samaritans at any time. 116123 is their number, or you can email joe@samaritans.org. Now, to an unexpected revenue stream for criminals in Scotland. Police say organised crime gangs are targeting chip shops, takeaways and restaurants and stealing their used cooking oil. The liquid is often left in containers outside premises to be taken away and recycled into biodiesel. Well, this is CCTV footage from the moment the thieves targeted Hilton Chip Shop in Inverness. This happened in broad daylight. Businesses can get around 30 pence a litre for their used oil, and Police Scotland say that thefts last year totalled around £20,000 in lost revenue. Well, let's speak now to the owner of that chip shop where that theft took place, Grant Cranston. Grant, this is the first I've heard of this new type of crime, and watching that CCTV was the first you'd heard and seen it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not something I'd ever heard of before. But then I seen a post on social media from another news site saying that there's been a rise in chip shop oil theft in the Inverness area. So I took the chance and looked at my CCTV and noticed that my oil bin had been moved. So I rewound the footage back by about 30 minutes, and within the past 30 minutes, there was someone in lifting my bin up, as you just seen on the footage, pouring it into their own drum and taking it away. So pretty surprising.
What are the police saying that these thieves are doing with it? Used cooking oil, essentially?
I've not spoke to the police regarding what it's being used for specifically, but it would be getting used, I'm imagining they're selling it on themselves. So they'll go directly to the suppliers, or rather the buyers that we would then sell to, or the people that take our oil away. They would then obviously sell it on to someone else. And these thieves are taking it straight to that person and sort of cutting out the middleman.
Yeah, and it's being recycled, the oil, and being used as biofuel. So there is a market there, and you're doing your bit to, you know, stump up a bit of extra revenue and do your bit for the environment. What kind of money do you make from this, and sort of what impact is it having? Do you know if this has been going on for a while, or was that a one-time thing?
Well, it could have been going on for a while, and this is the only sort of scenario where I've been able to catch it. It's not happened any other time that I'm aware of. But, for example, when we've got a full bin of oil, we'll maybe get £50 from one bin. And when we're busy, we could have 3 bins full of oil ready to be collected. That peaked during COVID, where we were getting £100 per oil bin when they were full. And that was twice a week. So, you know, during COVID, £600 per month. At the minute, roughly £300 per month. But it is a massive problem. And it's not something I thought we'd have to face, especially in Hilton, where the chip shop is, because it's such a tight-knit community. And it's a busy area with people walking past it all the time. So I was really surprised this has affected us. And I didn't realise how much of an issue it was until I posted it on Facebook. And all of a sudden, I've got owners from other local businesses sending me a message saying, "This has happened to us. It's happening on a regular basis. Can you please report it? It's seriously affecting us."
Yeah, it's organised, isn't it? It's criminal gangs, and they're targeting restaurants, chip shops, because, as you said, you just put the bin outside for it to be collected by the relevant body that recycles it. In terms of other businesses getting in touch with you, there's clearly a problem. And, you know, as the owner of a fish and chip restaurant, you're facing enough problems as it is. Talk to me about the costs facing you at the moment, because, you know, there's cost pressures, declining footfall, we understand, fish supply. You know, this is the last thing you need to add to that list.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We're very fortunate that we've not really seen a decrease in footfall. If anything, we've got busier. In fact, we've actually just invested over £880,000 on a new range, so all the fryers and stuff, just to keep up with demand. But
good news story, right. I like it.
Good news story eventually. But you're absolutely right. This is a problem across the industry. Fish and chip shop in general is really struggling, and small businesses in general, with rising costs of everything, or energy bills, VAT, fish has went up for us, potatoes, oil itself has become a lot more expensive than what it used to be. So it's a massive problem, and it's not something we're getting much help from the government with. So we rely on things like this, our waste management and the oil collection services, to, even if it is just £50, to some businesses, £50 is a big help in these times. So it's a massive hit for some people, especially the smaller businesses, like I said.
Yeah, well, listen, Grant, I'm glad to hear that business is going well at the Hilton Chip Shop in Inverness. But as you said, you're being pinched at every angle when it comes to eating away at the profits you make. Always happy to give a platform to small business here, because, you know, we know that you're struggling right across the board. That's Grant Cranston there, co-owner of the Hilton Chip Shop, talking about this new wave of crime in Scotland where thieves are stealing used cooking oil. Thanks, Grant. Thank you.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
Coming up on the UK tonight, remember Britain's loneliest sheep, Fiona? Well, she was rescued in the Scottish Highlands back in 2023, just to jog your memory. Well, we have some good news for you after the break. Head coach Thomas Tuchel to extend his contract beyond this summer's World Cup.
There's a fresh look to your news from 10 on Sky News.
It's a new show called The Wrap, every night of the week.
We'll still bring you the day's biggest stories,
but with more lively debate,
more in-depth commentary,
and more of what you need to know.
Plus a look at what's making tomorrow's headlines.
The Wrap.
Everything wrapped up for you from 10 on Sky News.
Mr. Trump, James Matthews from Sky News.
Hey, James.
I'm James Matthews, and I'm Sky's US correspondent. based here in Washington, D.C. Mr. President, what will you say next to Benjamin Netanyahu? In June 2009, did you stay at the apartment in Manhattan of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent. I've interviewed some of America's most recognisable politicians. Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? The UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting.
Mr Walker, you're anti-abortion, but 2 women say that you paid for their abortions. Are you a hypocrite, sir?
Connor, what did you say to the President? What did you say?
We had a great meeting. He was a great man.
I'm David Blevins, one of Sky's US correspondents based in Washington, D.C.
David Blevins from Sky News. Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What have you got to say to that?
I've witnessed the remarkable passion for politics here.
Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism? I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Why is this just an American problem?
The anger too, and the division.
Where are you from? From Sky News, UK.
Yeah.
Back up.
Mr. Navarro,
I'm allowed to ask questions, aren't I?
I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Vladimir Putin calls you outstanding, Mr. Musk. Has your ego and ignorance, sir, cost Ukrainian lives?
David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
Mr. Patel, did you endanger public safety when you said the killer was in custody?
Free wherever you get your news.
What words do you have for Harry Dunn's family today?
Have a nice day.
Do you fear a 4th indictment?
Coming up, a good use update on Britain's loneliest sheep. But first, Jess is here with the sport. You've given me some stick for that pun. I didn't write it, my producer Holly did, and she liked it so much. She made me say it twice. Good use, all will be revealed.
That has made my night. That's made my night.
Oh, Jess.
Brilliant.
Let's hope your night gets better. Right, let's talk about Thomas Tuchel, shall we? Hasn't even led England into a major tournament, let alone have the chance to win anything. But ahead of the World Cup, he's extended his contract.
Yeah, I have to say, SJ, a lot of people have questioned the timing of this one because all we've seen from him so far is some World Cup qualifiers, as you rightly say, and some friendlies. But what we have seen from Tuchel has been impressive. 8 World Cup qualifiers, 8 wins, not a single goal conceded. That's impressive by any stretch. Also, the way he's asserted himself in the year or so that he's been in the role has been equally impressive. He's asserted himself well alongside a notoriously critical English press pack. That's not easy to do. That's not easy to do at all. And he's also shown that he's not afraid to make big decisions, leaving out Jude Bellingham, example, from some England squads. And also, when it comes to Thomas Tuchel and perhaps him being prized away. I don't know if you've heard Manchester United looking for a new manager.
Do you know what? So many clubs are looking for a new manager.
Exactly.
So the FA have probably thought, you know what, let's lock him down.
Exactly,
so we don't even have that worry.
Exactly. There's also talk of Pep Guardiola being in his last season at Manchester City, Slot under increasing pressure at Liverpool. And when these big clubs are looking for a new manager, they're looking for big names like Thomas Tuchel. So the FA probably think they're being quite savvy here, tying him down. His head's not being turned and he can focus on the World Cup.
Obviously, Thomas Tuchel, following Gareth Southgate, what are the big changes he's made? What's he, replacing Gareth Southgate? What's been the big moves, if you like, the big change?
Well, I think on the pitch, England look as good as they always have. But off the pitch, behind the scenes, you might notice slight little changes because Thomas Tuchel always talks about wanting his players to conduct themselves well as athletes, as men, as well as being really good footballers. And he's shown that he's not afraid to impose his own ethos, his own style. And the FA are hoping that that will reap rewards in the summer at the World Cup.
Yes, they're all the England fans, eh?
They are indeed. And that's up to date then on Thomas Tuchel. Let me bring you the rest of the football news because the Premier League leaders Arsenal are in action tonight.
There's a reason why I've got a Premiership medal.
There was a lot of noise around Alan possibly going to Manchester United and then Newcastle.
If you're asking me would I like Alan Shearer, of course, who wouldn't like Alan Shearer?
Doesn't bother me at all it is talk.
There are only 2 clubs that are interested in Alan.
I spoke to Sir Alex Ferguson. The temptation to go to Man United was huge.
You name your price, you've got to be prepared to stick to it.
How much is it? Because that was a world record.
It's £15 million, making it virtually impossible for me to leave.
I think there was an inevitability that he would move at some stage.
Serious shout for United! I will, lads!
We're breaking records. We're giving people hope again.
Be like 7:25 for his name and number.
I just had to come back home. It was my dream to play for Newcastle and score goals at the Gallagher.
A lot of people probably looked at us and thought we probably needed a couple of centre-halves. Not Keegan.
After all, I'm only a sheet metal worker's son from Newcastle.
If I had to make the same decision again, it would be sign.
Now, back in 2023, she won hearts globally as Britain's loneliest sheep. Well, now, just over 2 years since her rescue, Fiona finally has a family of her own. She has just birthed 2 lambs. Well, you may remember Fiona was rescued from solitude by a team of sheep shearers in November 2023 after being spotted stranded at the base of a cliff on the Cromarty Firth in north-east Scotland. She'd apparently been living in isolation for some years. Well, now Fiona, named after Cameron Diaz's character in Shrek, has given birth to 2 healthy lambs, a male and a female. Well, we can now speak to farmer Ben Best about how Fiona and the little lambs are getting on. Oh, Ben, you've done me already. Look at that. You've got one of the lambs.
This is little Fergus that we've got here.
Fergus, we have a name. Because the last update I saw, we didn't have names. Who have we got? Fergus and?
Felicia, this is his sister.
Fergus and Felicia. Oh, they are cute. I think we're just going to end the programme there, Ben. I don't think we can do any better than that. Tell me, how's Fiona getting on?
She's getting on really well. She's just below the camera just now. And yeah, she's taken to motherhood like an absolute champ. And every step of the way, she's just aced it. She's been incredible. And we did have a few worries at the start. You know, was she going to accept the lambs just because she's a little bit of an older yow and she's never given birth before. And then, of course, all her history of being alone for a good part of her life. So how was she going to take to motherhood? But she's absolutely aced it and she has been an incredible mother.
Oh, look at that there. There she is with Fergus and Felicia. Oh, a little bit of a bar there for good measure. It just reminds us of Fiona's story because I gave a brief synopsis of it there. She was found in 2023 and she'd been alone for a number of years. How was she found? And do we know exactly how long she was at the bottom of that cliff for?
Yeah, we don't know exactly how long she was at the bottom of the cliff for. She was first spotted in November 2022 and then spotted at the same time in 2023. So we know she was there for at least a year. And the likelihood is that she'd fell down a steep embankment at the top of the cliff just when she was a young sheep, so probably in the summer. And it was too steep for her to scramble back up to the rest of the flock. So the only way for her to go was to continuously go down and search for food and water. And that's exactly what she'd done. And obviously, by the time she got to the bottom, she couldn't get back up again. So she became isolated and was at the foot of that cliff for at least a year, probably around a year and a half.
And Ben, how did you come to be with Fiona? Were you part of the rescue team? How did she end up on your farm?
Yeah, so the rescue team was a whole bunch of friends of mine. I had a newborn at the time, so I couldn't be there for the rescue. It was up in the Highlands of Scotland. But yeah, we cover all of our animals and our farming journey on our social media channels, and we're world renowned for animal welfare. So the fact that if Fiona came to us, she would be well looked after, then everyone can follow her journey when she came to the farm. So she didn't just disappear off into the abyss and no one knew what happened to her, considering she was such a big story. So it kind of just fit absolutely perfect. And Fiona settled in with us well, and she's been a superstar ever since.
A superstar, and now a superstar mum with Fergus and Felicia. Can we have another look at them before we go?
He's in his seat box. I don't know if you can see it over here.
Oh, look at that. Perfect for this kind of weather. Oh, I feel guilty you taking them out now. Oh, but go on, just a little cuddle. Look at that.
Who's Fergus?
Hi, Fergus. I tell you what, with such bad news around...
Look at his ears.
Yeah, they're so cute. Oh, look at that.
And Felicia is... Let me have a look.
Oh, go on. Look, you can have all the rest of the show. Where are you going? Oh, there we go. Oh, listen, Ben, thank you so much. You've made our night. There's so much grim news around at the moment. This has been the perfect sort of foil to that. Thank you so much. All the best to Fiona, Felicia, Fergus and yourself and everyone there at the farm that's been taking such good care of them. Some good news indeed. Thanks, Ben.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's have a look at the weather, shall we?
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News Weather.
Oh, we could do with some of those warm boxes. The next few days, wintry hazards, I'm afraid. Saturday, though, looks mainly dry with widespread sunshine at last. Central parts of both the UK and Ireland looking wet, though, this evening with snow on some of the hills. Elsewhere, showers more likely, windy in places. There'll be further showers or longer spells of rain overnight with snow on northern hills and perhaps to some low levels. You can expect icy stretches. Later, Scotland and Northern Ireland will dry up.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News Weather.
That's all from the UK tonight. We return on Monday night at 8 o'clock. Matt Barbette will be in the hot seat for the week. Up next, it's The World with Barbara.